Okay, so it was announced that the Department of Education is on the chopping block to be shut down by the Trump administration. And some people are confused and upset as to what that means. So let's talk about it. When the Department of Education first started in 1979, it had three main goals: administer federal funding for education, collect and analyze data on schools and students, and enforce federal education laws that relate to civil rights and equal access. Notice that nothing I listed mentioned giving them power to set educational standards. That's something that's left up to the states, right? Not quite. The Department of Education requires that all schools and states that accept federal funding have to follow certain guidelines and standards, which essentially gives them control over what's being taught in schools and basically puts all states and schools on a one-size-fits-all education model. This means that students in places like Malibu, California, and rural Alabama are forced to follow the same curriculum and teaching methods despite obvious economic and cultural differences that impact how students learn. Now, this wouldn't be so bad if the reading and math scores in the US were on the rise, but it's the complete opposite. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, US reading and math scores have dropped to the lowest level in decades. And the sad part, this isn't even a new trend. Based on the most recent assessment, reading scores have reached a historic low, with 33% of eighth graders reading below the lowest level. For fourth graders, the number is even higher, with 40% of fourth graders reading below the lowest level. That's the highest percentage in roughly 20 years. And what makes this worse is that the US spends more money on education than almost every other country in the world by far. So this model clearly does not work, and it's not something that you can just throw money at to fix. The other big issue is college loan and grant funding. College has become completely unaffordable, and the current student loan debt in America is about 1.7 trillion. What most people fail to mention is that the reason that college is so expensive is because of the Department of Education. Why wouldn't a school continue to raise its prices if they know that the Department of Education is going to give students loans for any amount of money and they're not tied to the performance of the student nor the performance of the school? It's free money. Removing the Department of Education will force colleges to lower tuition overnight because no students will be able to afford it otherwise, and those schools will go out of business. There are several colleges right now that don't accept federal funding, and their tuitions are way lower, plus their students experience way fewer issues when it comes to student debt when they graduate. There are also already states that have stepped up and started to offer student loans that are more affordable than what the federal government offers. So yes, we have real world examples of what this could look like without the Department of Education, and they seem to be effective.